Coming up on the Making Waves VO podcast.
What are we doing wrong?
Please stop singing the first line of the audition script just to be different.
What? Oh, wow.
Oh, it's a thing. I had somebody
Seriously?
take it even further and sing the entire script completely unprompted. It was not something that you would ever sing.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves. Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves. Making waves.
This is the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell.
It is indeed the Making Waves VO podcast presented by Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know VO.
Bobby, we've got a really cool episode. We're going to be talking with Kelly Moscinski in just a minute. She is a legendary casting director. I'm saying legendary because she's been doing it for a couple of decades. I think that, puts you in legendary status. We're going to chat with Kelly in just a minute. But Bobby, tell me about yourself. How have you been doing?
I am good. All's good here. Working. I guess that's the most important thing if we're talking about voiceover.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been slow in the beginning of 2026, and maybe we can talk about that in an episode coming up.
Yeah, for sure. And things have been going pretty good here now that, the snowstorms, maybe they're gone, and maybe we're seeing actual spring coming upon us and looking forward to the warmer weather. It's my favorite time of the year, though, except for the pollen. The pollen here in Tennessee, Bobby, as you've probably gotten to know over these last several years, and it's so terrible for our voiceover stuff.
I didn't develop a rasp in my voice until I moved here. And Ohio Valley was pretty bad, too, but it's really bad in Tennessee. So I'd have to take some sort of allergy med every single day, year round.
I looked it up one day, and we are among the worst here in Tennessee. They call it the pollen belt here, so it's pretty wild.
Is that a cousin to the Bible Belt?
I think it is. Because we're in that too. Oh, that is so cool. All right, let's not make her wait anymore. She is the owner and head of casting at the Voicecaster, the oldest voiceover casting house in the country, established in 1975. But I know Kelly wasn't there quite yet.
Was she born yet?
She probably wasn't. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the Making Waves VO podcast, Kelly Moscinski. Hey, Kelly.
Hello. Thank you both for having me.
Absolutely. It's so glad to have you on. And am I saying your last name correctly?
Very close. It's Moscinski, more of like
my.
an SH instead of the SC.
See, that
I've
breaks my
never
heart.
heard anybody say the CH in it. Wow.
Moscinski. Moscinski. Is that right? Oh, my gosh. And well, I apologize for all the times in the past I've said your name incorrectly. My gosh.
Don't. Some people just take to calling me Kelly at the Voicecaster or Kelly from Voicecaster just so that they don't have to say my last name. It's totally fine.
All right. Well,
So you guys did a conference together, didn't you, in Europe?
I
Yeah.
met Kelly last May in Holland.
Yeah.
And had a great time and got a lot of cool insights. And if you're okay with that, Kelly, we're going to talk about that kind of stuff and the casting process and everything you go through, the stuff that makes you roll your eyes and all these kinds of things. If you would, I saw that you have a theater background. And first of all, where'd you go to college and do your theater? And then,
So I went to Northern Michigan University. So I grew up in Christmas, Michigan, tiny little town. Jingle Bell Lane.
Wow.
No joke. It's a real place, I promise. Not just in a Hallmark movie. And so right on the shore of Lake Superior. So that's where I grew up. And I went to college in Marquette, Michigan, which was at Northern Michigan University. I originally went there because they have a fantastic pre-med program.
Oh.
I was going to be a psychiatrist. So my focus was in psychology. I started off school in pre-med. And eventually I took an intro to theater class my freshman year, got really involved in the theater department, decided, hey, maybe I don't want to be a doctor anymore. And I was like, well, I can't just jump to theater, so I'll be a teacher instead. So I basically went through their whole education program, did everything except student teaching. And then I was like, what am I doing? Entertainment, theater, that's where I belong. I did some acting in high school and in college, but I really found my momentum with theater management, stage management, basically everything backstage, and then directing. Directing was my calling. So I kind of, grew my love and my career there. I got my master's degree from there as well. Theater department gave me a full ride to stay on board and keep directing and
Dang, girl.
working in the theater. So yeah, so I got my master's degree in creative writing. My thesis was a play. I wrote a play.
Wow.
And then yeah, I just had friends who worked at local radio and TV stations who started saying, hey, you work with a lot of actors. I need a voice for this. And I was like, oh, cool. So I started, unofficially casting voiceover. Eventually in 2009, I ended up in LA. And shortly after I got here, I was debating on if I wanted to get into casting or be a talent agent. I interviewed for both and I was like, I definitely do not want to be an agent. That is not my personality type. Casting was so fulfilling. And as soon as I started at Voicecaster, my thought process was I'm going to take over this company someday.
Wow.
In 2013, I did.
Wow.
Congrats. That's awesome.
Are you deep down analyzing us as voice talent after your
I'm always hearing everybody's voices. I hear everything.
putting that degree
Which is funny because as a kid, I had surgery on my ears multiple times and I thought I was going to have hearing aids at one point in my life. So the fact that I don't, and I now have like supersonic hearing, my whole career is my ears. So
Don't go anywhere. The Making Waves VO podcast returns in a moment.
Obviously, I should probably stick to the copy, but it's the Making Waves podcast with Kevin and Bobby. Interviews and the news, keeping you up to date. Matthew Sumner and Palm, can't forget my slate.
Finding the right gear for your voiceover work shouldn't be stressful or expensive. At Full Compass, we make it easy with top quality equipment at competitive prices and free same-day shipping. With nearly 50 years of experience and a team of certified product experts, we're your one-stop shop for mics, interfaces, software, and more. Get free expert advice. Call 800-356-5844. And for unbeatable prices, go to fullcompass.com. Full Compass. We know VO.
Making Waves returns.
Let's talk, now we know where you came from, let's talk about casting in 2026. Are there any new trends that you're seeing or have seen in the past 6 months that are just kind of creeping up that you didn't really see in specs before?
So there's a few things. 2025, I saw a big shift. We've had the conversational trend, if we can even call it a trend anymore, because it's been going on for so long. But, we've had conversational for so long now. And I feel like in 2025, the biggest shift that I was seeing, and it's still prominent now, is more personality. So less of the do nothing with it take, the throw it away, just that kind of a thing. And more personality, putting more into it, having more of an opinion in your takes, things like that were really becoming big. I had a lot more clients asking to hear imperfections and flaws. And I think, the battle with AI voices, there's a lot of things in all of that you're not going to ever get from AI. So I think that's part of the reason why all of that became so much more important. We wanted to hear the person behind the takes, not the perfection. We want the connection. And so that was always, that was becoming bigger and bigger in 2025. In 2026, something very similar. But I'm seeing actually two things happening, which is very interesting. And I mean, it's still early on in 2025. or 2026. But there are a couple of things that I'm kind of seeing now. One is versatility. I am finding that a lot of specs are covering a lot of ground, which is not necessarily meant to be confusing for actors. Though a lot of times as an actor, you look at that and you're like, wait, what? Do they even have any idea what they want? You know, there are reasons those specs are all over the place. A lot of times it's because there are multiple clients involved. And so, you know, it's like one wants it to be a fast pace and one wants you to take your time. One wants you to be calm and mellow and one wants you to be upbeat and bright. You know, so it's like all of these things then end up in the specs and they feel contradictory. And most actors tend to try to attack all of it at once. Like, I'm going to encompass this entire paragraph of specs into one read, when really we want to see the versatility. We want to see you do that calm, mellow read. And then we want your second take to be, you know, the excited, whatever I said, energetic, upbeat read. So, you know, it's one of those things where we are looking for more range. It used to be 2 subtle takes were okay. But now it's like, when I'm listening to 2 takes, I want to hear 2 different things, not different for the sake of being different, but different choices, different connections to the copy, different point of views, things like that. And again, it goes back to that humanness. And being able to see your versatility in one audition also makes you more marketable. The client then knows that they can get you into the session. You have appealed to all 6 people who have a say in casting because you've checked all the boxes. You've checked the box for each one of them. So the versatility is a big thing that I'm seeing now, just as far as people showing more range in their auditions. The other thing which has been interesting is I feel like we're coming back around to some of the announcer stuff. We have seen so many sportscaster kind of things coming.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And then even some where they're asking for, you know, the typical announcer, you know, and that has been fun because it's coming back in a more legit way versus being a parody.
Right.
For a long time, it was like that announcer read was kind of often used as sort of a parody. But now it's like we're coming back to those strong announcers as well. So that's been kind of a fun thing we're seeing this year.
Kevin and I actually had a podcast looking for podcasters on an audition, which leads to that real people kind of thing, you know, influencers and podcasters.
Yep. And those imperfections, it's like if you flub a word or you have a little hesitation or, you know, something like that in there. I've been telling people, like, leave that stuff in. Don't edit your auditions to be perfectly clean. Leave your breaths in. I know it kills people to leave their breaths in, but we breathe. We're humans, you know, we know that you breathe, and it's okay to show that because those are those human elements that we're looking for.
I love that. And to your point, Kelly, about these trends about being versatile and, you know, a little bit of the announcer thing coming back. I booked a gig last week and it was for a host character. So it was like a cooking competition show where it was the host. So that totally plays into an announcer kind of a thing and a put on kind of a thing. But to your point, I gave them 3 wildly different takes because I'm like, this could go so many ways, you know. Mm-hmm. He could be a hyped, you know, co-host. He could be the persnickety, chef kind of co-host guy. So I did that. But that's to your point. So these are trends that are happening now. What about trends from the past that maybe you wish would just quietly die? That would just go away and you didn't have to deal with that anymore.
Vocal fry?
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. That kind of stuff.
You don't hear that in LA at all, do you?
No, not at all. Yeah, it's, you know, there are things like that where it's like people, and Vocal Fry leans into this because it's the trying too hard. It's the, you know, it's like I'm trying to be cool or I'm trying to, you know, whatever it is that I don't care or throw it away, like whatever sort of read. It's not that it's a bad read, but it's one of those things where I feel like it's trying too hard to be something and to relate to a certain audience. And because it tries so hard, it loses the authenticity. It doesn't feel like it hits where it needs to.
Okay, so the vocal fry. Let's make that one go away.
Thank you, Kardashian family. So tell us about some of your eye roll moments that you hear in our submissions that you wish would just go away. What are we doing wrong?
Please stop singing the first line of the audition script just to be different.
What? Oh, wow.
Oh, it's a thing. I had somebody take it even further and sing the entire script completely unprompted. It was not something that you would ever sing. It was just not a product that would have a singing commercial, just out of nowhere. And it's like, what am I going to do with that? Like, I get that, you're doing something different, sure, but that's not what it's about. It still has to work. But the singing, I don't know where it came from, but luckily it's only here and there now. It's not as much as it was a few months ago, but a few months ago, I had several projects in 1 week where I had at least 10 to 20 people on each project singing the first line.
That's
and I'm
crazy.
like, was there a memo that I missed? What happened? I don't understand why everybody's singing to be different. I'm all about improv. I'm all about making strong choices and going for it 100% if they make sense. The singing in all of these situations made no sense. So yeah, that was a thing. And I'm hoping that goes away soon, though I did have a project on Friday that had, the person sang the entire script all the way through. I have no idea why.
The thing is, though, it's like, whoever did that, they're taking a chance. I mean, you applaud that a little bit, but man, you got to read the room too. You've got to read the specs and go, how does this fit? Does this work at all? No, maybe not then. Maybe not. Take chances when they fit the specs. My goodness. When somebody is submitting something, Kelly, and you've got, 3 or 4 great reads, great auditions that have come in, what do you see as a common tiebreaker?
So yeah, a couple of things will come into factor there. It's once we've got things narrowed down and I'm making the last couple of choices, I'm listening for a few things. So first of all, connection, always that connection. I am listening for the authenticity. I am listening for the versatility. And then beyond that, so, I will end up with several takes who have all of those things. And I'm like, oh, how do I make this? How do I make this decision? Sometimes, honestly, it comes down to the person. So I was just talking about that this morning, actually, with Catherine, my senior casting director here. And one of the things that we were talking about is how, as a voice actor, your brand is out there in everything that you do, everything that you post, every email that you send, all of that. And I'm not even talking about like your website branding, colors and images and all of that kind of stuff. I am literally just talking about who you are as a person gets to us, so it's like I see things on social media, I get a feel for who people are, and then I work with people, we have workshops and we have our membership and all these things, and it's like I get to know people. So when it comes down to that, I also will look into, okay, who do I know is directable? Who do I know is a good person to work with? Who do I know will be a true collaborator and not just walk into that session, do their thing and say, okay, I'm done. I've had people that I didn't know, book jobs, go in and they're never going to work with me again because it was, oh, well, I gave you 3 takes. They were all great. We should be done. Or questioning what the client is trying to do with a spot and, things like that. And it's like, those are the people that I do not want to work with. There are so many fantastic people out there who are also genuine, kind humans, and willing to collaborate. This entire industry is a collaboration. I can't do my job without actors and producers none of you can do your jobs without each other. So it's one of those things where I'm always looking for people who are not just talented, but genuine, kind collaborators, people who are willing to work together.
And the Making Waves VO podcast will be right back.
Hello, this is Rebecca Lee. Psych, girl, let me stop playing. It's me, Rebecca Lee. You're listening to the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin and Bobby.
You know, Bobby, Full Compass has their finger on the pulse of technology in terms of how it applies to us, we voice actors, musicians, and corporations as well for like high-end audio and video equipment. But for we voice actors, they are really staying on top of things. As a matter of fact, Yamaha has had some really cool things drop recently.
Yeah, they have some new product launches. This one really caught my eye. The Yamaha MGX series, the digital mixers there. They come with advanced HDMI USB capture and HDMI pass-through functions. Now, I know you use this kind of stuff. Plus, they enable seamless integration of your high-definition video if you need that, streaming setups, and so much more.
So check that out on the website. Oh, by the way, at fullcompass.com, they have redesigned their website homepage. So it's going to be easier to use. It's a better interface. Make sure you look at the bargains that are going on with Full Compass, because they've always got something on sale that's going to save you money. And can we just brag about Full Compass for just a second, and specifically, Bobby, their fearless leader?
Can I give a little sister power here?
Yeah.
Because I'm all about that. Susan Lipp, she was named the NAMM, the NAMM, She Rocks Female Entrepreneur of the Year. And at the awards, she was honored with that, a really powerful recognition of her decades of leadership, advocacy, and innovation in the music products industry. So you rock, Susan, literally.
That is awesome, and it's just one more reason to feel good about doing business with Full Compass. So make sure you go to fullcompass.com. If you want to talk to somebody about your gear and your gear needs, and you want a personal consultation, they will do that absolutely for you and give you the best expert advice without any pressure to sell you anything. Their number is 800-356-5844. And Bobby, they have a shipping policy, right?
Yeah, if it's over $49, absolutely free.
So check it out, fullcompass.com.
We know VO. And now back to Making Waves. So you've told us what you're looking for at the very end. Do you mind going through what your process is at the Voicecaster? Because a lot of people probably think, am I up against 1,000 people? Will my agent, how many submissions will my agent send to the Voicecaster? Can you kind of go through that? I know that all projects are probably different, but a typical project.
Yeah, of course. So typically we will see anywhere from usually like 400 auditions upwards to 2,000 now on any given project. And most of the time people are like, oh, well, don't you limit, how many agents can submit to and all of that. We have a very specially curated list of agents and managers that we work with. Plus we have our own internal roster of talent. So, we do curate all of that. I don't just send out to anybody and everybody across the whole country. So we're very specific in who we work with. Again, relationships with agents are just as important as our relationships with talent. That's why casting directors still exist. My job still exists because of those relationships versus online casting and things like that. So I send it out to very specific people. I typically will not limit them to sending only 3 to 5. As I have done that in the past, I find that a lot of the agents tend to send the same people. And they always tell me like, oh, I'm sending you my biggest bookers. I don't want your biggest bookers. I don't care who's the biggest booker, who's right for this project. I have booked a lot of people on their very first voiceover jobs ever. Oh. And that's because they were right for it. I don't care who works more or, whatever. That doesn't mean anything to me. So I want the person who is right for the job.
I love that.
So I can't limit it. And then I also feel like I am going to miss a lot of people when the agents start, sending me only certain ones. So I try not to take that chance, which means I deal with a higher volume of auditions on my end, which that's a price I'm willing to pay. So once I get all of the auditions, so I would say on average, a lot of projects are probably around like the 800 mark. So say I have 800 auditions. The first thing that I do is I will just go through, and it's super easy. I can look at the labeling.
I know
the
where this is
labeling
going.
is right there. It will show me very clearly who has not labeled correctly.
Dunsky.
And my theory is if you can't take 5 seconds to look at how I asked you to label, because if you know Voicecaster auditions, we are very specific. It's script, specs, and audition instructions, all usually on one page. So it's right there. I line it all up for you. So you should be able to just take a second, look at that, label it correctly. If it's not labeled correctly, it automatically goes into my no folder. I always start off with 3 folders, a yes, no, and a maybe. I will listen to the first 3 to 5 seconds of every single one that's labeled correctly. That I haven't already gotten rid of. And most of the time I'm getting rid of 20 or 30 auditions that just aren't even labeled correctly. So it cuts it down for me.
And then you cull those down to yes, no's, and maybes. And then how many are you, I'm going to follow up on what Bobby's asking, but how many are ultimately being heard by the buyer?
Yes. So typically we are submitting 5 to 30. Usually 30 max. They usually want to hear some of our clients will be like, just send me top 3. So, it's anywhere in that zone, usually not more than 30. So we're really paring it down to just a few. So it's those 3 to 5 seconds that get you put in the yes, no, or maybe folder. Once I've got all of those done, I go into the yes folder. And then that's when I listen to the first 3 to 5 seconds of each take. So whether there's 2 or 3 takes on there, usually we ask for 2 or 3 takes. And I'm listening for your range then on that. So each take has to be different, but it has to be different from the very first word. You can't work your way into it, which is what most people do. So it's like, if you go back and listen to the first 3 to 5 seconds of each of your takes on an audition, do they sound different, or does the beginning sound the same, even though the rest of it's different? Because if it sounds the same, then you get moved to my no folder, and, I pare it down even more. And then once I get to that point, so a lot of times from about 800 auditions into my first yes folder, I probably have like maybe 140, 150. And then after my second round, where I'm listening to the beginning of each take and paring it down more, then I usually end up with only about 40 or so left. And then that's when I listen through to all of the takes of all of those to figure out who I'm going to send.
Wow. That's a lot going on there. A lot going on. We're chatting with Kelly Moscinski from the Voicecaster, casting director. And I want to talk about those first 3 to 5 seconds. And I've worked with you, and you've done the exercise. Is it okay for me to talk about kind of what you do in these workouts? Okay, so Kelly will say, okay, y'all listen, I'm going to play X number, the first 3 seconds of X number of auditions. And I don't know what the number is, maybe it's 100 or so. And then it's like, da-da-da-da. Let's say the introducing the new iPhone, introducing the new iPhone, introducing the new iPhone, introducing the new iPhone. Hey, let's introduce the new iPhone. And then that one kind of sticks out just a little bit. Kelly, tell us that process, please.
Yes. So I do. I pull about 80 to 100 auditions just for you to hear, because it is one of those things where I always tell people your first instinct is probably everybody else's first instinct. We know what commercials sound like. And so it's hard not to give that read. And then of course we feel like, oh, well, that's the right one. That's what the client wants. First of all, the client doesn't know what they want. So don't try to be what you think the client wants. Just be yourself. You're going to get a lot further that way. So yeah, those first 3 seconds are almost identical. And I will play 100 of those, and people are like, I only heard 3 that were different. 3 that were either truly connected, or 3 that maybe had, an ad lib in there. Maybe they left a lead in line that worked really well, things like that. Those are the things that catch our ear. Otherwise, it really is, we are hearing the same cadence. We're hearing the same tone. Even if the voice is a little bit different, everything else sounds exactly the same. And that's not going to stand out.
Wow. Yeah. Be unique, people, or be yourself, or all of the above. Dang. Um, uh,
Yeah, that
you know,
stands out.
I've been seeing auditions that say, even if you can't sing well, just, sing this. So I wonder, I wonder how people do with those. Like, my ears. So I wanted to bring up, I was watching the Olympics yesterday, the local channel of it. And, they ran an ad for, Kevin and I are both in Nashville. And Vanderbilt is the big hospital network here. And so it was an ad for Vanderbilt Medical Centers. And it was so sweet, but I knew 5 seconds in, it was Nicole Kidman. And I was like, dang her, why is she taking our work away? And then I thought, well, she lives here too. Did she get it because of a relationship there? Did one of her kids go to Vanderbilt Medical Center or something like that? How often do you get projects with celebrities? Do they impact your business much at all?
I mean, they do. Like we also do celebrity casting. So, the client will tell me kind of what they're hoping for, and then I will see who's actually in their budget, because most of the time it's who's in the budget, right? So, it's like we'll do that sort of thing. Once in a while it will happen where it's like we're going to cast something and then they're like, "Oh, well, wait a second. Actually, they got so and so to agree to it." So, it does happen on our end as well.
I've got a scenario that I want to present to you and just see if there was a solution. So have you ever gotten a situation where you've got specs from a buyer or client that were just so wild and random that you couldn't wrap your head around it, but you threw out the casting anyway, and then an audition that came in maybe saved the casting? Have you ever had a voice actor save a casting?
I have had things where it's like where I think it means something, or I'm like, okay, I think I know what they're going for. It's not totally clear. A lot of times I end up, I end up on Zoom meetings and things like that with the clients to hear them, talk about everything. And a lot of times it doesn't come out any clearer than what they wrote. So so sometimes I do put it out there, and just in that, like, okay, well, let's see what people do with it. Let's see if somebody else has some sort of interpretation. And I have had some projects where it's like I hear an audition and I'm like, oh yes, that's exactly what they're going for. So yeah, I've absolutely had that happen.
Oh, that makes me proud.
Let's talk about your I don't know what you call it, side hustle, or what you've recently got into with your coaching. And I know you're doing a lot of workshops. What's going on at the Voicecaster with that, Kelly?
Yeah, so we've always offered workshops. We are offering even more now in commercial animation, video games, accents, the business side. I just had a marketing and agent seminar and things like that. So yeah, we've really been expanding on that front. Just we get a lot of actors who, they're like, I need to learn. And it's such a market out there where sometimes you don't know who to trust and who to learn from, because there's just so much, especially since the pandemic. A lot popped up in 2020, 2021. So, it's like we are constantly being, reached out to. And so we've kind of expanded in that regard. And then 2 years ago now, I started Voicecaster Lab. So a lot of people were like, just around the world. I have taught people around the world now, where it's like my class is in the evening, my time, but it's 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. their time, or 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. their time. So it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I think we need to figure out some, a digital course or something like that, where it's a learn at your own pace, on your own timing, kind of a thing, an on-demand class. So that's how Voicecaster Lab started. And then from there, last year, we were seeing a lot of people who were just trying to get together for accountability and kind of trying to find a community, since so much of this industry is so isolated and people are everywhere and just recording in their booths alone. And, It used to be a Voicecaster, everything was in studio. All of our pre-pandemic, if you didn't live in LA, you weren't auditioning for Voicecaster projects because you came to our studio to audition. So we were finding this need for community. So last February 2025, I started the Voicecaster Insiders membership community. And we have over 200 members. We keep it a low monthly rate or an annual rate. But essentially, I'm in there 7 days a week. I post Monday through Friday, everything from performance challenges to on Mondays, I record a Monday motivation, just kind of talking about the industry and mindset. And then we also have a lot of business strategies. We do weekly workouts. We have a monthly training program. So on Thursday, we have our monthly training program for February coming up, where it's going to be all about branding. I have somebody coming in to teach them how to use Canva. So we've created this community where it's got the accountability, it's got the, getting feedback, and it's all led by myself and my casting team.
Hang around. We'll be back shortly.
Hi, hello, greetings, salutations, howdy. This is Rob Reed, Austin-based voice actor, and you're listening to the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell.
Wondering which mic fits your voice? How to dial in your booth? Or which interface to make your sound shine? Full Compass has been guiding pros for nearly 50 years, so you can trust them to help build your perfect VO setup. From essentials like mics, headphones, and cables to advanced gear like mixers, DAWs, and interfaces, Full Compass has you covered. Get free expert advice. Call 800-356-5844. And for unbeatable prices, go to fullcompass.com. Full Compass. We know VO.
And now, back to Making Waves. We all need to keep busy and keep our hands, keep getting better and training and following up on, the trends like we're talking about right now. Kelly, I'm sure that we're going to get a nightmare session story from Kelly in just a minute, by the way. But I'm sure you get bombarded all the time with people reaching out to you, voice actors and stuff. Can you recall a very positive outreach where a voice actor has gotten in touch with you? Conversely, can you recall a horrible one where you would never work with that person possibly?
They sang.
Yes, probably about 100 stories for each of those. But so one thing that to generalize a couple of the things that I'm thinking about on the positive side, it is always when people reach out and I can just feel that, first of all, they wrote the email themselves. I didn't use AI. And it's personalized. It doesn't feel like a form letter that they have just sent to everybody. There is something to be said for, when somebody reaches out and they are just genuinely asking, for consideration for our roster, or I would love to send you my demo, things like that. It's always just that kindness that stands out to me, and not a generic kindness, but where I can kind of feel that authenticity just coming through in an email. On the other side, I would say it's the people who, how do I say this? It's the
Let it fly.
It's the ones who are, I'm always told I have a great voice and you could get me some work. Here's my demo. Ooh. What kind of jobs do you have? Things like that are just very forward and kind of presumptuous, and we get these phone calls too, where people are like, oh, everybody says I have a great voice. Do you have any acting experience? No. Do you have a demo? No. Okay, well, those are the tools that you need to have, as a voice actor, but I have a great voice. And then, so often people will reference the Golden Voice guy who did the Kraft campaign several years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, well, even he had a background in radio broadcast or whatever it was. So, it's the rudeness and the, hey, get me a job. I've even gotten, I have a whole inventory of a whole file of things that I've gotten promotional materials from people that have not worked out well in their favor. And I've saved them as examples, in some of my seminars and things like that. But one, it literally just says, hey, Kelly, give me a job. And,
wow.
And then her name is signed. And I'm like, whoa, okay. So things like that, rub the wrong way.
I'm shocked at how many people getting into the business still think when they say, I can do impressions. You want to hear my impressions? It's like, wow.
Yeah, there is a space for that. But yeah, it's not with
Sometimes
Kelly.
I can't even have a normal conversation with people because they will go into all of these impressions. So like I'll be having a 5-minute conversation with them, whether it's on the phone or at a VO conference or whatever. And they have done 42 different voices for me. And I'm like, who are you? And what is happening?
Oh my
and can you just talk to me like a human? It's like they're trying to do a mini demo for me in a conversation.
Oh my gosh.
It worked for Robin Williams, but maybe not in voiceover.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. This has been so great. Kelly, if you don't mind, we like to wrap up with a nightmare session story. It's typically coming from the actor side, but I would love to hear one from your side. Would you please share with us a nightmare session story?
Nightmare Sessions.
Yeah. So, mine kind of comes from both sides because it is something that I had to bear witness to. Of course, trying to figure out what story I wanted to tell. There were more than I realized, but it's been in it a few years. So of course that's going to happen. So we were in a session and it was for a theme park and they were doing their Halloween spots. So the actor was recording about 8 different spots. It was in our studio and we had done the casting and everything for it. We were so excited because we were like, yes, a female voice. So often they go with a male voice for their Halloween spots. So we were like, this is amazing. They're doing something different this year and it's working really well. Producer and everybody on the line was very excited. They loved what they were getting through the whole first half of the session. So we get through recording all 8 spots in about an hour, maybe a little less. And they're like, okay, now we're going to get the client on the line for feedback. They never muted themselves on their end.
Oh, no.
So we could hear everything that was being said. And it was, who decided on this casting? Who did the casting? Why was this person cast? Why? I never had a say in any of this. And these don't sound right. And this person just went off and, was blaming the producer, was blaming casting, was blaming the actor, basically like who did all of this. So, this actor's in the booth hearing like, who cast this person? And I never wanted this person. And this voice doesn't sound right for this. And, we're not even doing this part right. And blah, 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 blah. It went on for far too long because we had to listen to 8 spots and they gave feedback on all 8 spots. So ultimately what happened is they came back on the line, even though they were never actually off the line. And they were like, okay, great. So we got some feedback and we're going to re-record everything in a slightly different direction.
Oh.
So then we had to do the entire session over again. And then, of course, the poor actor, having heard all of this, now has a little less confidence.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, now the pressure's on because the main client is there and listening to everything as she's recording it. Ultimately, it did all end up working out in her favor. They still used her for all the spots. They ended up at at least a happy compromise on that. The next year they did go back to a male voice. But it all worked out, but it was a very awful, intense 15, 20 minutes of feedback there in the middle of a session.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how we got to this point in the year so fast, but are you going to be at VO Atlanta here in a couple of weeks?
I'm actually not this year.
Okay.
Yeah. I have family coming into town and, I kind of missed out on them last year because I was at Atlanta. So yeah, I won't be there this year, unfortunately.
Did you get
I'll be back next year though.
Did you get your house all fixed up and remodeled in time for the company coming?
Yes.
We were talking about that with your husband in Holland in May last year.
Yeah.
And said he had so many things going on.
Yep. And I'm finally moving back into the office now because we completely renovated the studios. We have a couple more studios to go, but we've got four of the studios completely renovated now, plus our main office space. So yeah, he's been busy.
Wow. Hey, if anybody wants to reach out to you about the Voicecaster Lab, how can they do that?
Yeah, just email me casting@voicecaster.com.
Easy speasy.
Kelly Moscinski, head of casting at the Voicecaster and owner of the Voicecaster. Thank you so much for joining us on the Making Waves VO podcast. This has been great.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hate, Bobby, that I got her name wrong. Kelly Moscinski.
I thought it was, I think, like I said before, every person who I've heard say her name says it.
She's just so nice. She's never corrected anybody.
I know. That's why she likes nice people, too.
Yeah.
Because she's a nice person.
Yeah, she's good people, that's for sure. It was a pleasure to get to know her a little bit more and to find out those nuggets on the inside.
Oh, yeah.
Invaluable. Good stuff. Lesson learned, I should be singing the opening lines of all my auditions now, I guess.
That takes a lot of nerve. But like you said, I mean, that can be an instant delete. So you're taking a huge risk by doing that.
Yeah, be a little bit different, but don't be that different.
Yeah, exactly.
The Making Waves VO podcast presented by Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know VO.
Bye, Bobby.
Bye.
The Making Waves VO podcast is produced by K2 Media Productions with hosts Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell. Sound design and editing by Jason Traver. Production assistance by Lacey Deline. Publicity and social media by Shannon Scott and Silas Phillips. Be sure to subscribe to the Making Waves VO podcast on your favorite platform. For all episodes, merchandise, gear, and more, visit makingwavesvo.com. Until next time, I'm AJ McKay. Keep making waves.